Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Music Reviewer Podcast. My name's Josh. Today we're just doing another Best and Worst Track of the Week for you guys, week of September 12th. If you're new to Best and Worst Track of the Week, welcome. All I do on Best and Worst Track of the Week is cover the new entries into this week's Billboard Hot 100, give one a letter grade, or give all of them a letter grade, and give one the best track of the week, and then give one worst track of the week. That's all it is. And if you're new to the music reviewer, thanks for tuning in. I'm also recording this the same night I'm recording my Bright Eyes review, so if you're listening to this, there's another review out for the latest Bright Eyes album, Down in the Weeds Where the World Once Was. I thought that was a pretty good album. Had a lot of thoughts on it. And if you're interested in the Bright Eyes music, check out that review and also check out that album. And then also, before that, I also dropped quite an anomaly on this channel reviewing the Black Bear album, which I also had some interesting thoughts on as well. If you haven't checked that out, check out the review of Everything Means Nothing. And listen to that album too if you're interested. But nonetheless, that's it for the introduction. Let's go ahead and just get started on this week's Best and Worst Track of the Week. First, I'll just start off with some interesting highlights, I thought. So probably the biggest thing about this week in general is that BTS's Dynamite got #1 again. So that's a bigger deal than I think most people are letting on. That's huge for K-pop, especially with another new entry of like a K-pop band this week as well. I wouldn't be surprised if K-pop becomes quite normalized on the Hot 100 the next year or so, and we get more #1s, or if we just see a lot more K-pop in the top 10. It's kind of a feat because it beat out WAP, which I think was #2, which WAP killed it in like streaming numbers, I think, and the only reason why BTS hung on was like sales, so they probably won't hang on again next week, but still a good achievement for BTS and international music as a whole. Anyways, also Mood by 24kGold and Indian Dior has impressively gone all the way up to like #8. I think that debuted like 2 weeks ago. Overall, I thought it was an okay track. I thought it was probably the most standout track of like all those boring trap and clean guitar instrumental tracks. This one had the most, like, I guess, character to it. But yeah, that one went all the way up to #8. Also, Mood Swings by Pop Smoke and Lil TJ is finally going down to, it went down slightly to 20, but it's finally looks like it's going down. That was that was worst track of the week on one of our weeks, and I was afraid it was going to get a lot higher than that. Speaking of another worst track of the week, Kane Brown, Khalid, and Sway Lee is still going up to 22. I don't know how this track is doing it. It must be TikTok or something like that, because I haven't heard it on the radio or anything either. I just don't know how this track even makes sense, especially with Kane Brown and Sway Lee being on it together. And then Heather by Conan Gray, another worst track of the week, has finally gone down to 51. I was afraid that was getting some traction as well. And also we have our weekly strange occurrence of AJR Bang still going up to 58. Slowly but surely, they're going to make it up all the way to the top. I still don't know how this thing is surviving. It must be getting streamed the fuck out of by AJR fans. And then also, like, another what the fuck of the week is The Plan by Travis Scott dropped out after debuting last week. That was the best track of the week last week. I was surprised, not to say, like, that track was fucking gold, and it was destined to be liked by everyone, but Travis Scott, that name alone, I don't know how it just dropped out. And the track has kind of just been forgotten about, especially with all those Travis Scott stands out there. Maybe it'll get a resurgence with the, what is it called, Travis Scott meal or something. People will be like talking about Travis Scott, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this Travis Scott meal, and oh yeah, did you listen to his track, The Plan? And people will be like, no, what do you mean? Yeah, Travis Scott dropped a track 2 weeks ago, and people will be like, oh really? And then maybe that'll solve all the problems with it. But anyways, let's get into the first track of this week that we're reviewing, Ain't Always the Cowboy by Jon Pardi, coming in at 99. I'm kind of glad I'm talking about Jon Pardi on here finally. He's probably one of my favorite country artists that I've discovered in recent memory. He's also, in my opinion, one of the most distinguishable, mainly because of his voice, but he usually puts out some pretty killer tracks. On this track, there's a bright fiddle melody in the intro that's rich and charming. It's kind of like a charming love story about like heartbreak, like that kind of theme, and how a girl broke his heart, and you kind of get here a sense that Pardi continues to be more distinguishable, especially with the way his voice just kind of is on this thing, and that twanginess that he has. I think that's important to have in country music, especially for a male star. And then there's like a fuzzy and dirty guitar solo thrown in with like some wailing fiddles as the song later develops. Pardi shows some humility in the songwriting here, saying that it's not always the stoic man that is left hurting. But anyways, I gave it a B+. Let's Link by Whoheem at number 90. I think this is just TikTok clout, because the track itself isn't that great. I made on my notes here, if I had a bet, this is making rounds on TikTok, and I confirmed it by doing some research later. But anyways, this track has like a sampled like bright piano, like jingly bright piano, and the instrumental, some percussive elements that sound pretty weak and maybe too overly light. Whoheem does kind of have a quirky delivery and almost Blueface like. I don't know if that's because lack of technical talent, but the chorus or a hook thing on this track is the most intriguing part of this track by far, just because of how unusual it sounds. And I'll admit it sounds unique, but overall the rest is pretty static. I gave it a C. The next track is Expensive featuring Nicki Minaj by Dolla at 83. This track overall was saved by Nicki Minaj, I think. It has like a clean guitar sample ostinato thing going on that goes through like different changes in effect throughout the track, and there's a pop R&B flair to it that's kind of something you'd expect Chris Brown to be on, but I think Nicki Minaj is not surprisingly the best part of this track. She ends up sounding better and more interesting and energetic than Ty. Her flow is good as usual, and she at least raps with some character. Overall, the track is kind of static and not too exciting, and I think that'd be at the fault of Ty Dolla $ign. But I gave this one a C-. Next track was Chris Stapleton, starting over at 57. Another country artist I'm kind of glad I'm talking about on here. He's kind of the rising star of like country music, but he goes about it and not in a way that he's kind of like a badass and he's in his own lane almost. I saw him live in an arena, I guess a couple of years ago, and granted the seat ticket was pretty cheap. They're obviously trying to sell at that stadium, but he put on a good show. He has a great voice, probably one of the most distinguishable, strong voices in country music today. And yeah, the track has a typical dominating Chris Stapleton vocal performance. There's an acoustic guitar track that sounds rich and natural, and I like the percussive element that doesn't get in the way of the track, and it gives the track character as well. The track kind of does get to the point pretty quick, though. Not much else develops throughout the track, and I'd say you get what you get in like the first 45 seconds to a minute on this track, but it's not unbearable. It's easy listening. I gave it a B. And then the next track, the highest debuting one for new entries, is Ice Cream by BLACKPINK with Selena Gomez. 13, BLACKPINK being the other K-pop band that is kind of making their way, in this whole American scene. I've seen them do a song with Lady Gaga, and I think another one of their tracks debuted a couple weeks ago. They're definitely doing something right. Their management or their label really knows how to promote them here. But nonetheless, the track has some pretty blaring percussive and sampled synth elements that greet you in the very beginning. It's not too flattering. Selena Gomez doesn't characteristically sound herself. It's kind of interesting. Unless you see the music video, it's kind of hard to pinpoint which parts she's on. but it's pretty obvious in the track that the members of Blackpink are vocally superior to Selena Gomez. When you make that distinction, when you actually find out who's singing what, they're kind of just singing circles around her, which Selena Gomez isn't known for being a spectacular vocalist. I've actually seen her live too. She doesn't sound bad, but she obviously can't belt, and she kind of has like a pretty static way of going about it, which it's a pass at this point. Selena Gomez makes music more for kind of like her fan base and the whole aesthetic of whatever song she's on. I'm not knocking her for what she does. Overall, this track doesn't go through too much development. There's a needed rap verse halfway through that makes the track a little bit more interesting. I can definitely see the appeal of this, but it's not that exciting to me personally. It's listenable, and it's not too obnoxious for being a track just about dessert metaphors, which in itself is kind of an accomplishment. So I give it a B minus. And then we are towards the end now, where we go to the worst track of the week. We'll start there and then end on a positive note with the best track of the week. Worst track of the week is Blast Off, featuring Trippie Redd and JuiceWRLD by Internet Money, at 79. This is the second Internet Money track I think I've covered on here. Why are they a collective? Because really, anytime I hear what they're doing on a track, which they're known for, is production aesthetics mainly, and they're kind of like a DJ Khaled thing where I guess they feature the artists and everything else is done in the background. But why does this collective exist? Like, there's nothing exciting on their tracks from what I've seen. Granted, the last one I heard, Lemonade whatever, that had Nav and Gunna on there or something, that track was miles ahead better than this one, but still, this track isn't doing them any favors. And mainly my issue with this track is Trippie Redd. He sounds fucking awful on here. And the track, it kind of gets started with like a typical clean guitar instrumental shit going on. We get it. It's a fucking trend right now. But as soon as Trippie Redd puts his mouth on next to that microphone, it just sounds cringy. It's soft. He sounds wimpy and wailing, and it's just unfortunate. Admittedly, he does dominate the track when he is featured, but just hearing his stuffy nosed tone and his voice, it's not enough to make. It's enough to make me want to gorge my eyes out, honestly. His whole aesthetic is like this tattooed, kind of like fuckboy, drugged out rapper, but his shit is just so soft. Like, I don't know who's really jamming out some Trippie Redd. Like, anytime I hear it, I'm just like, why not just put on something, not as soft? And by soft, I really don't want to say like it sounds non-masculine or something. It just sounds fucking weak. He doesn't really have that much vocal talent to where like he's as good as JuiceWRLD on this song, because when JuiceWRLD comes in, he sounds miles better. His vocals have dynamics and character, and he's not overbearingly obnoxious. But when Trippie Redd's on here, the whole aesthetic is just soft, and I just don't really fuck with it, and I feel bad that JuiceWRLD's on here. And another reason, aside from Trippie Redd being fucking terrible on this song, another reason why I'm putting this worst track of the week is because, can we stop trying to commercialize on JuiceWRLD's death already? Because this track, I think, has been in the works for years. Why is it coming out just now? Like, it's not a revolutionary track. The last one he was on with The Weeknd was a lot better. To me, that's one thing that's really bothering me with this whole hip-hop game lately, is just the commercialization on these these late rappers and artists. I understand that the fan base might want the music, but this is obviously just here to get some chart traction, and it just doesn't sit well with me. Trippie Redd doesn't have that much rap prowess either. He's certainly not a virtuoso in that respect. He's not even Nav. Honestly, I think if we're going about low tier rappers, he's not even Nav level. yeah, I just can't wait till I just don't really see. I can't wait till I don't see his name anymore. Anyways, worst track of the week. Probably my most passionate worst track of the week, but whatever. Next track is best track of the week. We'll end on a positive note. Over now with Calvin Harris and The Weeknd. This track actually threw me off guard. Did not expect this whole overall like West Coast kind of vibe aesthetic to this thing. It has like a typical Weeknd whimpering vocal style that always manages to kind of be pulled off by The Weeknd. I'm always kind of surprised about that. And especially there's moments on here when it sounds the best when there's like a held out synth tone and some sparse bass notes thrown in and out that creates space between all those textures and The Weeknd's falsetto, and it just just kind of creates like these cool arrivals and some like really vibey parts of the track that just kind of flow really nicely, like kind of like butter. And then this track is especially good in my opinion just because of that lovely accompanying fat R&B bass track. That thing is just dominating, and it's played in almost an impeccable fashion. It's really played to the style that is going here, which is like this 90s rap R&B aesthetic, something that you could have seen Snoop Dogg had been on or something back then. There's also some quirky electronic embellishments that coat the track nicely, and it's a production highlight for Calvin Harris, I think, in his discography. Hopefully this is a lead single to an album that sounds, roughly along this line, because it'll be a good album if he pulls something like this off. That was best track of the week, though, The Weeknd and Calvin Harris. But yeah, if you made it this far, thanks for joining me on Best and Worst Track of the Week. If you're new to the music reviewer, make sure to check out our social media, the Twitter, and also the Instagram. Just search the music reviewer. You'll find me there because I'm the only podcast with that name, but also on YouTube, you can look me up. Subscribe if you want. I make videos, that just kind of, are made for the audio to go on. But, I also did a video not too long ago on the YouTube channel that is called Are the VMAs Rigged, that I only put out for YouTube because those are mostly just a rant. If you want to check that out, go ahead and check out that video. But nonetheless, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys later.